Hello, hello, hello. I am back with another video. It's two videos today. I'm finding a lot of excitement and joy in making these and kind of just using the space that I have to be able to create what it is that I really want to create, right? And I'm extremely grateful to have the mindset of wanting to self improve and find different ways to make money. You know, overall, like I enjoy doing this, and that's what comes first. And I know that later on, more money will present itself as I continue to just stay along this path and I continue to improve within. That will illuminate externally. So, what I really want to get into is more or less my testimony, my story, and kind of what it is that I've gone through in my life that's gotten me to this point. I was both my parents are from Kenya, so both came here in 1992. My mother was born into a wealthy family. My grandfather was one of the founders of Kenya. He helped put together the Republic of Kenya and went to the Lancaster House in 1962, 63 to sign Kenya's independence from the British. So there's lot of history, huge amount of history there. And my father was born to two farmers in Gatundu and was, for the most part, living in poverty. So he had to find different ways and means to evolve himself out of poverty. And I think that overall, like when I really look at the dynamic of my parents, it fits so well together, right? It's like, my mother who was born from a wealthy family, my father who really didn't have that much. And, overall, like, we really start to see, I start to see, right, the life that they had and how that life went from point A to point B to point C to birth me and to allow me life. Because without those two, I wouldn't be where I'm at. And they came here. They didn't have that much money when they came here. My mom kind of wanted to get away from, the life in Kenya, and she wanted something different. And she didn't have to. She had a really good job at the embassy. She was a human resource officer, manager. My dad had just gotten a job at a pharmaceutical place there, so they were doing really well in Kenya standards, but they thought that they could give us a better life here in America, and that they did. And as I grew up, we moved all around. My dad was in biotech, so we moved all around. We moved to all these different parts and different places. Texas was one of them. Wisconsin was one of them. We were in North Carolina at one point. I was born here in Boston. My sister and I were both born here in Boston at Beth Israel. And, we kind of just moved around and was always feeling like there was something that just didn't feel right in terms of how life was being lived and how I was perceiving it at the time of me being a child, right? Like, I was always questioning things and I was always asking why things are this way and that kind of stuff. And now I see why I was the way that I was, because now I'm reverting back to that childlike self, and I could see a lot of the injustice and suffering that was going on in the world at that time. I remember there was one time we lived in Syracuse. That's where I really grew up. We were there for about 8.5 years, and there was this homeless guy, and I remember my dad and I were driving. I was like, Dad, why don't you give him some money? And my dad gave him $15, and I was asking him, why are people homeless? Why don't people have? I was curious as to why, right? And growing up, as I said, I predominantly grew up in Syracuse, near Houston, Texas. I was a younger kid, so I recall most of it, but my life was a lot. I hadn't developed fully consciously to the sense of starting to have my own thoughts and things of that nature. It's really when I went to Syracuse. That's really when I started to kind of blossom into that a little bit more. And once I got there, I was very resistant to what I was being told I had to do. As I went through elementary school, middle school, I resisted a lot of it, and I kind of figured that a lot of what I was forced into was not really what was natural but I couldn't put those pieces together at the time. But that's exactly how I was feeling, you know. And as I grew up and in Syracuse, and you know, I had a lot of, I don't want to say misunderstanding to a degree, yeah, but I never really fit in with the crowd of people that there was, right? Like I tried to make friends through lying and stealing money and buying people things, and I just try to buy people's love and friendship and affection, and excuse me, it didn't really work out that well. You know, I was obviously black growing up in that area, and there was black kids in that area, but like I didn't really fit in with them, and like I didn't really fit in with the white kids, and it just was, it was just this weird ping pong back and forth that I had, and I still have some homies from Syracuse that, you know, support me and love me, and I love them. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to them, and I hope they're doing well in their lives, and I hope their life's progressing, and I hope their life is moving forward. But yeah, while I was there, I was very resistant and combative, and I stole money from my parents, and you know, I just tried to be somebody I wasn't, you know, for such a long time, and you know that transitioned later on into my more teenage life, right? Like then we moved from Syracuse back to Massachusetts, and that's really where I finished off high school and whatnot, and you know the partying started happening, and then the substance use started happening, and then the lustful behavior started happening, and you know I just started getting more involved with that sort of lifestyle. Right, I started going to shows. I was big into like the EDM scene and the Grateful Dead scene. Like as I started to transition out of high school, like that was really where I started to get involved and pick up a lot of old, like bad habits. Well, I was gonna say old because they're old now, but at the time they were my life, you know. And then you know, going through that whole process, I attracted some people along the way that weren't really healthy for me and weren't really good for me, and I started to follow the lead of people who really weren't the best for me, and you know, and I didn't help either, right? Like the influence of the people I had in my circle at that time weren't really the best for me, right? And like I was there in Massachusetts for a while till I graduated high school. You know, I graduated high school, and then in 2016, I went back to Kenya. Right, 2015 was summer partying, summer of just pleasure and all that kind of stuff. And in the summer of 2016, I went back to Kenya, and that was the last time I saw my old man, because he was alive then. He died at the end of that year, actually, so it was in God's timing for us to spend those last days together. And it was a great experience, you know, us to be with John Keane, like, because who John Keane was this magnificent, boisterous, just colorful person, right? And I don't mean boisterous in a bad way. He was just electric, you know, in his political years and such. And you know, I was around my family and around just who we are as a family. I was able to immerse myself into that for 4.5 months, and it was beautiful. And I came home, and by the time I came home, you know, Mom and Dad had already moved to Madison, Wisconsin, so I decided my sister stayed here. I decided I would join them there in Madison. And then in Madison is when I really started to spiral. In Kenya, I was drinking and whatnot too, but I was spiraling very badly in Madison. That's when the partying picked up even more. Cocaine use picked up even more. Alcohol use picked up even more. More pleasure sexually picked up more, and I really was in a really deep, dark place for such a while I was there. And couldn't get my life together. Tried to go to school, dropped out. I just couldn't seem to put it together while I was there. So I was there for about 2.5 years, 2 years. And then, 2 years. And then I decided that year of 2018 that I'd come back, early 2018, I'd come back out east, live with my sister. And I tried to live with her, and I had a job with Dunkin' Donuts, and just had no direction. Just couldn't see the light. You know, it was just in a sea of darkness there. And her and I got into a big fight one night, Christmas Eve night, and you know, I put my hands on her and that kind of thing, and I ended up going to this county prison for 7 days. Then they put an ankle bracelet on me. She wasn't going to press charges on me, but the state of Massachusetts picks up that case. in the event that there's a domestic. So I had an ankle bracelet on. Again, rehabs and in and out of rehabs, and couldn't get my life together, right? And I was just being fed the wrong information, realistically speaking. And overall, like, I really got to, now that I look back on it, I got to really see how much my life was driven by my lower self, how much my life was driven by my lower emotions. And that really, like, controlled my life for a very long time, you know, and I went through that. I got through that, you know, and then I was part of, you know, I went to NA and A, and I started going there religiously and picking up their practices and started picking up the things that they were telling me, you know, I'm an addict and that sort of stuff, and it helped me get to this point, and I'm grateful for it, right? And as I continue to go along into it, after that, you know, I bounced around. I was moving, you know, all over Massachusetts with mom, and, you know, got my own place in Peabody, started boxing. I was overweight. So that's when I started. My mom was like, you should go to this boxing club. I think it'll be good for you. I'm like, okay, I'll try it out. Tried it out, and I really liked it. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I really dig this. And then just shed off. I was almost 200 pounds at one point. Most people can't believe that. But I was almost 200 pounds at one point in my life. So I shed off a lot of weight. Got in really good shape, and I took care of the physical, but I was neglecting everything else. And again, my life rampantly controlled by pornography, rampantly pornography. I keep, I don't think they're going to strike me, but my life was, at that point, once I got away from alcohol and drugs, the corn was, that became my new addiction. I supplemented all that for that. And paying for women and that kind of stuff, massage parlor, all that stuff, you know. And overall, as I kind of went through all that, where I was living in Peabody, working at Title Boxing Club, and it was a good run that I had there, and that place helped me out a lot to get to where I'm at now. And as I went through that, there was a certain point where I met this kid, and I met this kid, and we moved in together, and it was just a toxic trauma bond, you know, that we had. You know, we met in rehab and that kind of thing, and we decided we'd move in together. People are like, this isn't a good idea. I don't think you guys are going to last that long. Oh, you know, and me at that time was so influenced by my own lower self and everybody else around me, or, you know, him and other people who agreed with me. So we moved in together, and it didn't last long. The whole COVID thing actually happened while him and I still lived together. So we got locked down, and, you know, we ended up using substances. And me at the time, I thought I'm an addict, and I worked in a rehab. Let me go back a little bit. I worked in a rehab with him, and we were both ended up started smoking weed together and working there. And then it was like, all right, well, we can't work here anymore. This isn't really, was never really meant to be, you know. And overall, like, we started to use and get high and whatnot, and then went back to rehab through the whole COVID thing. In COVID, we went to rehab. We were stuck in rehab, and you know, we got out. We just had to figure out what it was, and then as that started to transpire, the Summer of Love, the BLM riots, and, you know, we were all hyped up about that, right? Because that's what it did to all of us, just pulled on our emotions. And we went to a protest together, the one in Boston, where they destroyed everything. They didn't destroy everything, but they looted a lot of Back Bay, and they did a lot of damage to that area. And overall, like, him and I had a huge fight that night, and I was like, oh, you don't care about me. You care about black people, but you don't even care about the black person you live with. I said something along those lines, and it was the truth. That didn't offended him. And then after that, that was it. We packed our stuff, and I never saw him again. And I hope he's doing well. I really do. I hope I pray in my heart that he's doing well. And, you know, after that, I moved up to New Hampshire. I actually got transferred to another rehab, Process, and then I went to Process and went up to New Hampshire and decided I'm going to move up to Manchester. Right, I went through their program, the whole rigmarole, and I moved up to Manchester, and yeah, like, the same thing transpired. You know, I'm still being controlled by my lower self. I'm still being controlled by my lust, but I'm not doing drugs anymore. Right, I stopped drinking and smoking weed and all this, but I'm still plugged into this matrix. Right, I didn't give up the love of the world yet. You get what I'm saying? And through that process, while I was up in Manchester, Like I met this kid Jake Tyree, which R.I.P. Him and I became good friends, and he was a good person. He had a lot of love in his heart. He really did. I used to pick him up from Longhorn. We used to go to meetings. Like he was a good influence, in my life at the time, and you know he ended up passing away from a drug overdose. I got a call that night from the guys at Rice, and they're like, Jake died. I was devastated. Him and I went to a meeting that same week. That Monday. He died on Thursday. We went to a meeting that Monday. I talked to him Wednesday night. Technically, he died Thursday morning, whatever, but I talked to him just a couple hours before he died. And at that point in my life, I was just like, I no longer want this anymore. This isn't the company I want to keep. If people are just dying all the time, and then we're just justifying it, saying that people aren't, or not justifying it, but we're saying that people aren't doing what we're supposed to be doing. That's why they're dying. There's more to that than this. And I decided I spent enough time in the company of death. That's just what it was, man. I decided I was finished with AA. Taught me what it needed to teach me. It was a foundation for me to build to get to where I'm at, to see that there's something wrong in my life. And that's where I'm extremely grateful for it. And overall, like, I found Nick. I found Nick Wright. And I found him on Facebook. He made a post about all the stuff I'm telling you about, like being controlled by alcohol, drugs, lust, the whole nine. And I read it. And I was like, hey, buddy, you got some time? You want to have a discussion? He's like, yeah. He's like, give me a call. So I gave him a call. I said, hey, man, like, this is how I'm feeling. Like, this is where I'm at, man. I want to break out of this system. I want to break out of this. Yeah, that's what it was, break out of that system. And, Nick's like, all right, so ask me what my life looks like and what it is that I'm doing and that kind of thing. And we clicked immediately. I said, this is the guy. This is my man. We're going to give it a try, right? I'm going to give it a try. Boom. Like that. Separated myself from AA and NA, started getting into plant medicine and working with him, and it's been a long journey through that, I went through a heartbreak in the more or less last 2021, I'm sorry. So, like, met this girl and thought we would be this thing, and it wasn't, and then a couple of times I blacked out, got really drunk, and I got a DUI along this way, and just kept constantly plugging in and unplugging it, and now I'm finally like unplugged to plug into the matrix with my true self, right? Being the vehicle here, right? And as we've gone along, emotionally, I've felt the suffering of the world. I've learned about my moon in Pisces. I've learned about my Mars in the 10th house. I've learned about these concepts of astrology that have really connected me deeper to myself through working with him, and I'm still learning about it too. It's a constant learning cycle of work, and it's beautiful. And I really have been able to gain such a deeper understanding and appreciation for my life, right? And the essence of my energy and the essence of my being, right? Like, I'm no longer going around like just trying to hang out with people that don't really serve me, or meeting women that don't really serve me. Like, none of it really has anything to do with my self-improvement and developing towards the life that I am creating, that stems from within me. So these are some of the things that Nick has really helped me, like, understand and work with me through it, and I'm just extremely blessed. Now I have a job that I love. I work at a restaurant, I'm a server there, and I'm very valued and appreciated as I appreciate and value them. I do Muay Thai, like, my yoga practice is strong, my Muay Thai practice is strong. I'm just getting stronger and stronger each day, and it's taken me to fall forward enough where I finally learned from all of what it is that I needed to learn from to get to this level. And there's another level. There's going to be more hardship. There's going to be more pain. There's going to be more, but the reality of it is I have to build myself to be undefeatable, to endure the pain and suffering, so that I can get myself to where it is that I want to be. That's what most of life is if you're willing to take the pain and the brutal force of it and build yourself to be undefeatable from that pain and that force, things will start to just happen for you. And that's what's happening to me. The more and more I wake up each day, the more and more clearer I am, the more I heal my addictions and merging a better relationship with my family. These are all things that have really allowed for me to ascend deeper into myself and start illuminating what it is that's within me to create what it is that I desire. And it's taken me a very long time. It's taken me a long time. It's taken me a lot of pain, and there's gonna be more, right? The mistakes are gonna be new. They're not gonna be the DUI and pornography and chase. That's not what it's no more. That book is closed. So it's like, I understand there's gonna be more hardships and more challenges along the way, but that's what makes it incredible. That's what makes this whole life just worth living, right? Especially as a man. I know it's different for women too, but I can only speak on from being a man. Like, the hardships that you go through is what makes the man. That's what makes men stronger, right? That's what allows us to build that divine masculine frame, is taking on these challenges and hardships, doing the things that we might not want to do, but we're disciplined to do it, so we're going to fucking do it anyways. You know, and like, these are some of the things along the way that I continue to keep understanding, and they continue to keep showing me parts of myself and unlocking pieces of myself, right? Like, I'm just at the tip of the iceberg in terms of potential. You know, I'm just starting to reach that point, you know, and I'm extremely grateful, right, to be able to have reached that point. Because now that I'm at this point, there's another point, right? So I'm just going to keep reaching different points. Week in and week out, day in and day out, minute by minute, it's just going to keep, it just all is moving me towards my desired destination. So I really wanted to come on here and just kind of share my story, my testimony, and kind of, for people that view it and want to subscribe, please do. You know, I am extremely grateful to have this channel and this platform, and I am watching it grow just as the days go along. So I'm going to leave up here somewhere. It's either on my side or the opposite side. I'm still figuring out where to point, but I'll leave my subscription so you can go ahead and subscribe. I'll leave my most recently uploaded video, excuse me. I'll leave that there. I'll leave it in the boxes for you. And I look forward to connecting with all of you who would love to connect and talk about your experience, and to hear your experience, and to hear your testimony, and as to where you've come and as to where you want to go. So that's it. That's all I got for today. I'll be back with another video, more likely than not on Thursday. We got a really busy day tomorrow. I got to work, and we got to be in early. We got some stuff. We got a lot of construction that went on there, so we got to move stuff around and that kind of thing. So that's all I got for today, and look forward to connecting with you all. May the force be with you. Have a great rest of the day. Mwah.